Thank you for returning to life in the 1800s newspapers, where we read an old 1800s newspaper together, word by word. Today, we're in York, Pennsylvania, and we're reading the York Weekly, dated May 22nd, 1891. Hey folks, as you sit reading your paper, watch out for those giant mosquitoes. Make sure you stay with me till the end of the paper, and I will have a couple more of these 1800s funny shorts for you. Our Indian War. We have received some interesting information concerning the incidents which preceded the recent rising in arms of the Indians in the West. The seated bull, their chieftain, having resolved to make known the fact that the Indians have not received their annuities promised, he betook himself to the capital at Washington. There he laid before the president of the legislative body his complaints of the governmental agents who he declared had stolen what was the Indians' due. He was informed that his declarations would be taken under consideration, and he departed. But the promises having remained without performance, Seated Bull once again came to the capital. This time, in the midst of the assemblage, the Seated Bull did not utter a word, but drew his tomahawk and dealt a terrible blow upon the marble table which was before him. The table was broken in two, and the chief's tomahawk buried itself in the floor beneath. It was the token of the chief's declaration of war. The Seated Bull then left the capital without anyone daring to lay a hand on him. Returning to his canoe, which he had tied to one of the piers of the great bridge across the Potomac River, he paddled rapidly back to his own territory. How Barnum was Barnumed. A good story is told, again, of P.T. Barnum. Some years ago, when he was here with the circus, a young woman called at his office and asked to see him. She was granted an interview, and told him she had a cherry-colored cat which she would sell to him. Barnum told her to bring it, and he would give her $100 for it. The next day, she appeared at the office with a covered basket. Barnum lifted the lid and found a black cat inside. Where's the cherry cat?" said he. "Why, that's the one," said the young woman, "a black cherry cat." Barnum handed her $100 and told her to leave, and gave orders never to admit her again. It was probably the first and last time that he was sold at his own game. Not always. Great doctors are not always right in giving big advice. Some things are better far than drugs and not so high in price. Professor Hoke's electric belts effecting many a cure that doctors good had given up among the rich and poor. Here's a sad story. The knell of a broken heart. In the shops of the C.H. and D.R.R. at Hamilton, Ohio, is a cracked locomotive bell that has a history. It was attached to a locomotive presided over by a strong, manly, handsome engineer, whose great object of pride and adoration was first his sweetheart and then his faithful engine. He loved them both devotedly, though of course in quite different ways. One day at Hamilton, he stood in the cab of the engine, bell rope in hand, ready to move the lever and start the train, when he saw a bridal party approaching. He glanced at the bride. It was the girl he loved. His heart stopped beating. He gave a groan and dropped dead. As he fell with the bell rope in his hand, he gave the bell a loud ring. It cracked it from top to bottom, and it was found afterward that he had died literally of a broken heart. The bell in the shops at Hamilton is still called the Bell of the Broken Heart. Where every man is a fire alarm. An original mode of sounding a fire alarm is adopted in a town in Colorado. In that region, the revolver is considered an indispensable article of daily wear and affords the quickest means of announcing to the rest of the community the impending danger. Whenever a fire is discovered, a rapid and promiscuous discharge of the firearm spreads the news through the town. This method, though crude, is found to work fairly well. It has, however, one drawback, in that the fire department, as well as the public, is often uncertain whether a fire or a fight is in progress, and whatever the truth may turn out to be, somebody is sure to be disappointed. Nervy American girls. The fact that American girls could go anywhere and almost everywhere without escorts has long been a matter of wonderment to me, said a member of the French nobility to me the other day. I was coming down an elevated train yesterday, and the reason was made apparent to me. As we neared City Hall station, almost every passenger made a rush for the door and stood for 5 minutes, each anxious to get in front of the other in leaving the train. One of the crowd was a very pretty young woman carrying a long-handled umbrella in one hand and a big bundle in the other. Just behind her was a short, very fat man who was rudely crowding the pretty girl. As I had not left my seat, I saw the performance that followed. Once the girl looked over her shoulder, and the fat man stopped crowding for a moment, but began in again and trod on the skirt of the pretty girl. Her eyes grew dark with anger. The long-banded umbrella assumed a horizontal position and shot backwards, point first, catching the fat man just above the bottom of his vest. He gave a gasp of terror and caught his breath just as the pretty girl looked over her shoulder, smiled sweetly, and said, "Oh, pardon me, but you are on my skirt." Then she smiled even more sweetly, and the fat man dropped into a seat and groped about as though the air in the car was suffocating him. The girl marched complacently out of the car, head up, the dainty feathers in her hat nodding defiance to all masculine humanity. Amber necklace for the grip. Amber necklaces are coming into vogue as a remedy for the grip. Of course, they are not displayed conspicuously, but are worn low on the neck out of sight. The friction of the beads is supposed to engender a sort of electricity, which is said to be fatal to germs. Some doctors smile when their patients suggest the use of the beads. Hundreds of children wear them as a remedy for croup. A dealer in the meerschaum and amber in Broadway says the other day that he had given a necklace to Henry Ward Beecher to cure him of hay fever, from which he had suffered for many years. Mr. Beecher wore the necklace, and the next time he saw the dealer, he thanked him warmly for the gift, saying it had done him a lot of good. I know when people are learning a new instrument, it can be annoying to listen to. Let me know what you think of this news article in the comments below. The piano next door drove him crazy. Stamford, Connecticut, May 16th. John Dixon of this city has been driven to insanity by a girl practicing on a piano. Yesterday afternoon, he was suddenly seized with a fit and rushed up Bedford Avenue shouting and singing. At the first house, where he found a lady playing on the piano, he seized a stone and threw it at her through the window. It barely missed the piano player and demolished a costly picture. He was today taken to the Hartford Insane Asylum. If you're liking my channel, check out my second channel, Life in the 1900s Newspapers, which includes the 1900s, 1910s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s. Much obliged.